Good morning. I'm Dr. Cam, and today I actually asked my daughter literally 5 minutes ago if she would mind if I talked about her story. And not only did she say okay, she agreed to come on and actually tell you herself. So I wanted to start a little bit um, before I have her come on about what we're going to talk about today. I want to dig a little bit into the brain and understanding how our brains are wired very differently. And that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. So last week, I mentioned that I had trouble getting my medication, getting my new prescription for my medication. And the reason that was so kind of traumatic to me is because it was for managing my depression. And depression is something that I have been managing pretty much my whole life. I didn't realize I had it until my mid-20s, and I didn't even start taking medication for it till after that. It wasn't until I took neuroscience while I was getting my PhD in developmental psychology that I realized that it wasn't because I was weak. Depression wasn't about me being weak. It was about my brain working differently, and that I needed SSRI, which is a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, to make sure that the right messages were getting sent and that they were able to pick up the right messages. And so my guess is at some point in the history of the human life, having this sort of overabundance of emotion may have been a survival mechanism. There may have been a need. There's enough of us that have it that there must be some reason for it at some point, but it no longer helps us. So we take medication now to help us live in the world that is now functioning the way it's functioning so we can function okay in the world. And when I don't get this medication, it's unlike a lot of medications, it builds upon each other. So when I stop taking it, it deteriorates. And it takes me a while to build it back up. So when I went days and days without it, and then had to take it and build up more days, I could feel the withdrawals, which was very high anxiety and just very difficult to manage my emotions. Very difficult. And I liken it to how teens probably feel every single day, where you can see yourself and you can see the emotions and you want to control them, but you don't have the mechanisms in place to control them, which is it's so frustrating because you're like, I know that I'm being more anxious than I need to be. And I know that I'm acting out more than I want to act out, but I don't have the ability right now to bring it down, or it's very hard. I do have the ability, but it takes a lot of work. And it usually takes my daughter saying our secret word phalange, which is based on Friends, to calm down. So years later, after I figured out, okay, I have depression, I need to treat depression. And once I treat it, I feel normal. My daughter was diagnosed with ADHD. And it took me years to accept getting medication for her because in my mind, her mind wasn't broken. It was different. And she learned differently. But in order for her to learn in the way I know our schools have to address the common denominator. And the common denominator may learn one way. She doesn't learn that way. So we had to put her on some medication to help her learn and have the thought capacity, or have her brain work the way it needed to work to be able to succeed in school. And this has continued to frustrate me because I feel that the message gets sent to her that she's broken when I want to tell her over and over again, she's not broken. She just learns differently. But instead of me conveying it, I'm going to invite my daughter, Lex. As you can see what her actual name is, I'm not going to say it because I don't want to set off all your machines. She was smart enough to remind me not to do that. So Lexi's going to join us. And Lex, tell us a little bit about what it has been like to be in school diagnosed with ADHD.
Okay, yeah. I have been diagnosed with ADHD since second grade. and I still am. But the different school, it was different from elementary to middle school because like when we started to do our big classes, like when we started to actually have blocks, it was harder because like in elementary school, like it was much easier because we were all together in one classroom. But in middle school, I kind of felt shut out quite a bit. Like I felt like I had like no social interaction. Like I kept seeing the same people every day instead of seeing new people. And so that's why like that was my struggle with it, is like just like feeling like I don't have any social interaction with anyone because I pretty much didn't for the longest time.
Did you feel different because you were in these?
I did feel different because I do have an IEP at school, and so like at my old like middle school, they had IEP classes, and I had to go to math and English instead of having like I didn't have 2 electives, but so it kind of made me feel left out because I felt like I was missing out on my second elective because I really wanted to pick, and I just wanted to be treated like any other student. Like if they don't have to go to math and English every day, like I shouldn't just because I have a learning difference, as my mom likes to call it. I don't want to be treated differently because I shouldn't. Like that should not happen. But
yeah, so when you were treated differently, how were you? I know you weren't able to take a lot of the classes, and you were in these, separated classes, right?
yeah.
What do they call them in school? What do they call those separated classes?
I don't know.
Okay. So, but they have these separated classes, right?
Yeah.
And so you feel like, how does that make you feel when you're kind of taken into a smaller classroom?
It's really weird because like my middle school career, I went to 2 different schools. And so it was weird getting the difference from the 2 different schools because they were very different in a lot of ways. Their IEP program was very different, like very, very different. But it made me like, like, I didn't like to be shut out from everybody else. I want to be like the same, like everyone with a learning difference. Anyone, like you can talk to anyone. Everyone wants to be treated the same.
Yeah. So the classes are called self-contained classes.
Yes, self-contained.
Which to me sounds like jail. Like you're contained, separate, like you're isolated from everyone else. So I think that's really hard. And we understand, I mean, both Lexi and I understand that they're doing the best they can, right? Yeah. But I think what frustrated you a lot is you used to come home a lot and tell me that you didn't feel like you were being heard.
No, I did not.
You would try to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
And you weren't being heard. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, like this year, like I would come home and say that I was not feeling heard because like I wanted to be like everybody else. Like I feel like it's hard going to a new school, and it was hard adapting to a new IEP program because not 2 schools are the same. You think they would be, but they're not. Like my other school was really different, and the school I did go to was very different altogether. And so I had a trouble at my second school than I did my other school because I felt like I was being heard at one school and I didn't feel like I was being heard at my last school.
Right. When you hear yourself, so I know a lot of times you would call yourself that ADHD kid. And what would I tell you when you called yourself that ADHD?
Oh yeah. You don't have to learn, even though you learn differently, that doesn't define you.
That's right. Do you feel like you're less smart than everyone else?
Kind of, because school is kind of like making us feel that way. Like it's practically school. Like our tests are different. Like I take different tests than everybody else. And that's how it's going to go. forever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna grow up, like college, high school, and I'm gonna be having something to do with something different. Like I take different tests. Like, so I feel like they're like putting like watering it down because they don't think we're less smart than an average person, even though I learn different.
Right. Right. So I know you've come home a lot of times frustrated because you're learning the same thing over and over again
Yeah.
and we understand they want to make sure that you're learning it and giving you the way to learn it. But and I think one of the problems is that because kids learn so differently, like everyone, even in your self-contained class, learned differently, right?
Yeah.
So it's finding those ways. And there's a lot of options out there. We chose to go to public school, so that was the choice we made, and we have to figure out how to make the best of it. One thing I want to explain, though, is that, I mean, one thing that I know we've struggled with, because you don't like to read. You've come up. I used to read to you all the time. We have shelves and shelves of books.
Oh, yeah.
I'm an avid reader, and that is something that you just never liked, which was something that was
never.
really actually hard for me to accept. But here's what I've learned, here's what I've learned. I'm going to call you Lexi. I'm going to set off everyone's alarms. But here's what I've learned is during COVID, while you've been home, you have read every single day for hours.
Yeah.
The difference is you've been reading what you love to read. So what book have you been reading?
I'm showing my book.
Okay.
I'm really into the musical Dear Evan Hansen, so I got the book Dear Evan Hansen, and it's like the musical. It's based off of the musical. It's kind of really similar to the musical. The musical came first, and then the authors decided, some of the creators who wrote the show wrote it, and another author wrote this. So it was something that I was interested in, and I have been interested in because it's what I love, theater.
So that is something that I want to share with any parent watching or any kid watching, is we can get bogged down in them not wanting to learn things and not doing good in a certain subject. And what I've learned really clearly just over COVID, when you've been able to pick and choose what you read and what you do, is when you're focused on something you love. So the two things I know that you love passionately are Disney and Broadway.
Yes.
And you also love the news, and you also love sports, right? So you're reading every single day, and you're coming down and you're teaching me stuff that I did not know, because you go and you watch documentaries, you read articles, you watch YouTube videos on learning this stuff, and you get deeper and deeper into it, right?
I watched.
What is the other thing that you love to do that you're doing every single day now on your own?
I love to sing. I take voice lessons. I have been taking voice lessons since 6th grade, and I love it. Like, I practice every day. Like, I always sing. You always hear me sing. Like, I always like to sing. And sometimes, like, I like to branch out to new songs because, like, I love listening to, like, Broadway show tunes. So it's nice. Right now, like, I love my songs that I'm singing at voice, because we always have different songs. Like, we always rotate to different songs.
What motivates you to sing?
Just because I love it and I want to get better at it. And I think now is a great time, since I'm locked in because of COVID. Thank you, COVID. Because I want to get better, and now is a great time for me to practice, because before then I don't think I ever practiced voice. I know that's so bad to say, but I pretty much, because I was like, because school, but now since school's done, summer's out, now since I have nothing to do, all I do is sing.
Well, here's the difference too, is before this, I used to try all kinds of ways to bribe you to practice, didn't I? Like, I would put it on your this would be something that you had to do for your allowance, or this was something in your schedule, or I would just kind of nag you about it, right? Like, you need to practice, or I would threaten you can't have voice lessons. Did any of that work?
No. The only
None
thing
of
that
it worked.
me to work is the reason why I practice voice every day is because I want to. My mom did not make me practice voice this whole time. Like, it was my decision. And I feel like to all the parents and teens watching this, it's a great learning point, since my mom didn't like nag me to do something. I end up doing what I love. So just don't nag your teen about it. Like, don't nag like my mom did and threatening something, because eventually they're gonna want to do it themselves. Let them do it themselves, because if you keep doing that, they're gonna feel like they're getting unheard.
Yeah. So even though I advise a lot of parents to stop nagging, I still do it too, don't I?
Yes.
And it doesn't ever work.
No.
Does it ever work?
No.
I know that. No. But do you help around the house?
Yeah. Even though I don't want to, because I do the same things over and over again, I still do, because I'm still a part of our family.
You are. And I appreciate all the help that you give me. You give me a lot of help.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to share about it? Is there any, if somebody else is feeling bad, or a parent is feeling bad, or a teen is feeling bad about having ADHD or learning differently, what can you tell them?
Don't let the schools tell you different. Like, be your own person. Like, be who you are for you. Like, stick up for yourself. Like, even though some schools you may not be heard at, like, just don't let them drag you down. Like, keep your head up high, because I have had this for the longest time and I'm still here having it. And so don't feel like, any parent, don't feel bad if you have to medicate your child, because if that's how they're gonna learn like the best and focus, then that's how they should. Like, but any teen, like, don't feel like broken. Like, you're not. Like, even though you learn different, like, you're still not broken.
Thank you. I could not have said that better.
Thank you, Mom, for having me on your little live Facebook, your Facebook Live. I really appreciate it.
This has been my favorite one so far, because you joined me. I'm going to have to bring you on again.
Everyone.
I would love that. You have to be on more, lots more. Actually, I'm going to say it again. Lexi has even asked to host it herself one day. So we might do that too.
One day I'm going to take over.
I love it. All right. We're going to say bye to everyone.
Bye.
If you have any comments for me or for Lexi, please share them below. Share with your friends. If you know anybody that has kids with ADHD especially, please share with them and share your stories with us. We always love to hear everyone else's stories. And you can email me at www.askdrcam.com, and would always love to hear from you.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow.
See ya.